Hello everyone, Pete. Just wanted to talk a little bit about cybersecurity and crypto. Nowadays, cybersecurity crimes are at a rise, and unfortunately, it is more lucrative for hackers to engage with those investors that have cryptocurrency to some extent. They're targeting websites that share the cryptocurrency vernacular, such as Etherscan, Ethereum, NFT, Bitcoin, just typical cryptocurrency terminology that these web crawlers that traverse these websites are picking up and returning these values to these hackers to put more emphasis on deciphering what they can do with these websites. Many people talk about, well, my crypto site isn't sharing any information. You can't download anything, and therefore it's safe. No, it's not. All you have to do is go into a website that is infected, has malicious code, and you're subject to all kinds of bad actors and bad software. Some examples are keyloggers, which basically execute on your computer, phone, and they upload data, information. And through this information, people can use the algorithms to determine if it relates to credit card, expiration dates. Also, when you enter these sites, you're giving up your IP address. If you register these sites, your email information, you create a password sometimes, and most times people create passwords that they use for their regular email account just because it's so complex to keep track of them. So just keep that in mind. As you can see here in the graphic, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It looks like a nice suburban home, right? And as the day progresses, it gets a little darker. You can leave your garage door open and your doors open, your windows, right? So we're going to use this analogy, your home, and we're going to picture your home as being your PC, right? Being your phone, being your appliance that you utilize to connect to the internet and do some of these transactions with cryptocurrency. Note that this doesn't apply just to cryptocurrency, but in today's world of cybercrime, identity theft, it applies with everything you do. Anything you transact with, you need to be careful with. So let's get into things here. As you can see from that home, right, it's anonymous with your unsecured server, home PC, whatever it may be. When I talk about ports that are open, and you see me talk about this site doesn't have a firewall, the ports are open, what can we do? What does that mean? So if you picture your home, picture every port a port of entry, right, that remains open, right? There may be some barriers like glass, whatever the barriers may be, but even though they don't have access directly because of this physical barrier, there's still visibility. They can see what you're doing, they can see what you're up to, and as they peek into your home, they're able to run tools to determine other ports that may be open. If they see something and they like it, they'll find a way to exploit an open port. And this is once again why I think I reiterate that it is very important that these crypto sites close all these ports out, because you have these hackers here that are looking, right, especially if it's HTTP. When it's HTTP, a web crawler will come back and say, hey, look, this is HTTP, and through our analysis, they use a lot of cryptocurrency terminology. Let's take a look. So if it's HTTP, basically means there's really no security for communications. They can look from the outside in, see what's happening, get all your information, your email, your IP address for your computer, whatever it may be. So it's very important that we tend to stay away from these HTTP sites and focus on those that are secure. If you picture your home, there's all kinds of ports that will remain open. If you look at the email here, email passwords, data, your mailbox, I mean, all of these are ports that need to be closed up. Otherwise, you have these little hackers here trying to get in, especially if they know that this site, this home, this PC, this server has a ton of vulnerabilities or open ports that they can either come in through, walk right through the door, go through the garage, or even take a peek, right? So your home, right, is your firewall in a sense with your computer. However, it's only as good as how you secure it, right? The yellow arrows represent that barrier, these filtered ports, right? Some of these ports sometimes are filtered. I prefer that servers and especially those with crypto, I kind of think of them as your bank, right? Because you're actually doing monetary transactions to some extent. They're filtered, but I prefer that they're just shut down, right? Just shut down so that if they are filtered, they can still be hacked by way of brute force attack or trying to decipher these passwords that are used for these ports. The red arrows represent open ports, right? There is no physical barrier, no glass preventing anybody. These red arrows are point of entries where these hackers can get in. They're not filtered. They're just basically open, and they can get in there. It's if they're open. Once again, brute force attacks. A lot of these ports, what I look for when they're open is to see if they disabled passwords and usernames that are common to these ports. And for example, admin, right? Sometimes these ports are open and the passwords are not changed, so anybody can go in if they wanted to. Sometimes they don't even have passwords to get in. So these are obviously red flags, and once they gain your information, they can then look at your emails, right? And through your emails, determine even your bank account information. The eyes represent Peeping Tom Hacker, right? He's just basically, okay, there's a barrier, it's filtered, whatever, but what information can I see, right? Can I see, okay, you claim on this website, crypto site, that you have a ton of these tokens. What can I get? What's your IP address so I can go try to hack your home router? Because if your home router through the IP address isn't set up correctly, or your firmware on your router is outdated, what vulnerability can the hacker leverage? So kind of think about it this way. So this is what it looks like when you're unsecured, right? It's night, it's getting night. You're not home, but you have all these people who have the ability to come in, get out, steal your information, attach scripts to your computer to see what your emails look like, all of this good stuff. You're basically granting access. So imagine a crypto site with all of these open ports, your information inside that house, your email address, and all of that good stuff. Very scary. This picture here represents a secured server. Once again, in comparison to your home, your PC, your cell phone, this is what it looks like to have something secured, right? This is what I publish on my Tequila Pete site as something that I classify as secure, that you can transact with. You can enter as many email addresses as you like. You can go to this site and feel reassured that nobody in there is going to take your information, right? So as your home, right, your ports, there is no way to have a peeping Tom hacker in there trying to look at what's coming in and coming out of that PC, out of that server, because there's blinds, right? They can't see it. It's the ports are closed, right? This is what I mean by closing down your ports and only allowing those that need to be open for website visits and whatnot. Obviously, you don't have peeping toms, right? Everything's closed. They can't get in. Your port of entries are also secure, as you can see here, right? Your main window says HTTPS. As soon as a hacker sees HTTPS, they're going to be like, shoot, this is going to be hard to get into. Is it worth the hassle? If they see HTTP, they're going to be like, oh no, let's get in there. Let's figure out what we can do, right? So Having said that, your entries are secure. Your garage, for example, is they can't peep. Only authorized folks can get in there. Authorized security, secured protocols are only allowed with complex password challenges. If you look at your main port of entry, the door's there, but it's closed. So somebody needs to knock, right? Hey, can you let me in? Well, first and foremost, if you whitelist them and say it's Uncle Peter and Aunt Julie, they're whitelisted, they can come in. Guess what? They can come in. The same thing happens. You can blacklist, right? And you can blacklist crawlers. You can only allow for crawlers that are known, like Google, Apple. So you can kind of control what comes in, what comes out. You also go to a different extent, right? With this cop right here, or maybe it's you with your gun saying, "Hey, you can't come in here." There's somebody actually standing at the door and saying, "Oh, wow, this is a malicious bot. Let's block them. Hey, get out of here." So this is what a perfect setup looks like. Even your mailbox has a lock on it, right? So nobody's looking at your information trying to get in. This is what I'm trying to accomplish, especially in crypto world, just because once again it's they have your money, they have access to your information, your transactions. Sometimes you log in there and you put a password. Sometimes you go in there and put your email. All of these things can be pretty much captured and shared amongst the hacker community, the dark web. Make sure you're following techpeep.io to see what sites are approved, why they're good to have. And the key thing here is to remember is, although the penetration scan, the vulnerability scan that was taken represents that time, that date, things change, right? I mean, let's think about your home. Your blinds start falling apart, and they can create an opening to have these peeping toms look in to see what's happening. Things just wear out. Applications get old. Software versions are released. There's so many things that come up. So it's important to get these tests done with a certain frequency, if you will. So if we look once again at both scenarios, right, this is where you want to be. This is what I'm trying to accomplish in the crypto world. A secured server, right, and your home PC as well, so that, as soon as a crawler comes in, it'll say stop, do not enter. They see that there's security by way of firewall, web application firewall sitting there. They're not going to share your information. You're secured. The alternative is my vulnerable sites that either have all kinds of issues, or a couple ports open that shouldn't be open. There really isn't a reason, unless they can prove to me there is. I've had people say, well, I need that port open. And it's like, well, you don't need that port. It's FTP. That's a very old protocol. It's got so many security risks. If you're using FTP, what else are you doing that's outdated? I mean, that just throws red flags. If you can't protect your site and it's wide open, how does your contract look like? What's vulnerable? So for the most part, what I found through my analytics, I see that those projects that are there to rug, basically there to steal people's money, have no intent on a real project, look like this bottom picture. There's no security. Yes, the house is pretty, the website is pretty, and it looks like your typical suburban home. Nice, beautiful blue sky and trees, but everything's open. The doors are open. Anybody can come in, steal your information. You want to stay away from that. In 2021, 1.5 million Americans were reported to be victims of identity theft with fraud in the tune of over $40 billion. Once again, this is where I see crypto sites going. There are a ton of bots that just traverse a site, just look for exploits, look for information, metadata, anything they can find to report back to a hacker and say, hey, this site is a site you need to look at. It's vulnerable. There's internet cookies that you guys are familiar with that capture, basically the intent is to take your information about your website experience and store it. So next time you come to this website, it remembers who you are and it makes your experience more pleasurable. However, once again, your information is getting stored, like your IP address, to some extent your username and password. Once they have your email and they can get your password that's stored on that site because it's unsecure, they can go back to your home email and try that password. That's the first thing they try. And like I said earlier, right, usually you use the same password across everything. Unprotected sites basically get hit with thousands of bots, Google bots, right? And then Google actually sells your information. This is why there's a big push for Web3, right? So that your information is exclusive to you and not others. A black box penetration test and security scans, vulnerability scans, are accomplished by me. They are utilizing industry standard tool sets, the same tools hackers use. Black box basically allows one to be and see what a hacker sees from the outside in, not from the inside out. These types of tests are a little more complex, right? I on my site present a list of tools that I have to utilize. If I do see a discrepancy, I dig deeper into that discrepancy. I never ask the site for credentials or their IP to their subdomains and domains or their servers. I just perform a reconnaissance operation to get everything a hacker can see. So I run into many things like SQL injections, which are the most common type of malicious attacks that cyber criminals exploit. They have the ability of stealing, deleting, modifying data for that site just to gain administrative control of the applications that are running. There's so many malicious people out there, and that's why I do these presentations. One of the things I do recommend to keep your stuff secure is 2FA, two-factor authentication. I see it on everything, your emails, anything you do. I encourage you to set that up. So thank you for taking the time to listen. I think this is a very important topic. Not a lot of people understand. They feel that their cryptocurrency is safe. But once again, if you're dealing with a developer with an unsecured environment, what else do they lack? What does their contract look like? So be on the lookout. Be careful with these. Thank you very much. Pete.